Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're here. What a beautiful day. As you can see, it's been daylight savings, everything's been changing, the light, which is wonderful. It's super interesting, though. I guess later on this year, they're going to pass a bill in Illinois so that we are in always in daylight savings time, so that the time will never switch. That'll be super interesting to see how that turns out. Anyways, I'm Rita Hickman. I'm body mind expert, and I help women in narcissistic and toxic relationships. That's what I do. Been doing it for a while. And one of the questions that comes up with the women that I work with is my mother a narcissist? So quick, a little background on narcissists. Narcissists come in all shapes and sizes. At its core, narcissism is that survival mechanism that we have that says, you or me? Nope, it's going to be me. It's absolutely going to be me. And all of us get to those situations or experiences at some point in time where we're cornered and put into a wall where we decide that our interests, our personal interests, are more important than the interests of someone else. That's being narcissistic. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, that can happen for a variety of reasons. One of the ones that people talk about the most is when someone has mental health, when someone is struggling with something like borderline personality or ADD, ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder. When they're dealing with some sort of mental health issue, including complex PTSD or even regular PTSD, when they're dealing with that, it causes people to behave in a very self-preservation sort of way where, you know what, this is the situation, this is what's got to be done, and is it you or me? You know what, it's going to be me. Because many people with mental health disorders, they're in such a level of internal distress when they are stressed out, when they're anxious, when things are going wrong, when the weather changes, when the air pressure changes, when traffic is bad, when they had a scare, um, all sorts of things like that. It can be anything. When they get when they get pulled over by a cop, uh, anything can trigger many mental health disorders. And when they're triggered for whatever reason, they end up becoming very narcissistic. So, on the other side of the spectrum, some people are narcissists because they have, I like to say they're on the right side of the spectrum. I'm more on the left side of the spectrum, intuitive, compassionate, empathic. And then there are people who are more on the right side of the spectrum who, if they're super intelligent, they tend to be engineers or scientists. The, the professor sort of type, a little bit of arrogance at times. A little bit farther down the line, they would be Asperger's or they would become autism. And there's a whole set of circumstances there. And their internal world is very rich. They have a very hard time connecting to the external world. And one of the reasons for that is because the world is too overstimulating. Think Big Bang Theory and Sheldon. Sheldon is absolutely a narcissist, guaranteed, no problem. He's a narcissist because his emotional intelligence is pretty low. He spends an enormous amount of time in his head, in his own world, and the outside environment has a strong effect on him. He gets overstimulated, he gets overwhelmed by things which are happening. On the flip side, these same people tend to be comfortable in chaotic situations because it keeps their mind busy. It keeps them stimulated. And so in some cases, they accept situations that nobody else in their right mind would accept because to them it's sort of a puzzle. They don't really understand the emotional ramifications. Now, if this is your mother, if you have a mother who is either constantly in survival mode, or you never know when they'll be in survival mode, or constantly creating or involved with or walking into chaotic situations, and you have no choice. You're the child. You have to go along with it. with these scary situations, and let's say you aren't on the right side of the spectrum. Let's say you're more on the left, where you've got these emotions and feelings and fears and struggles. There can be a lot of collateral damage. So, narcissism at its core is one person saying, you know what matters to me is much more important than what matters to you. And this is fine when everybody's an adult because, your brain's mature. You have resources. You aren't trapped. You aren't dependent. You've had some life experiences. You've got people you can turn to. However, if you're a child, that's not true, and you end up with a lot of wounds and a lot of damage that the narcissist won't even acknowledge or understand or accept or realize or recognize that that's even happening. And so here you are, a little girl dealing with these situations without a lot of help. And typically the spouse of a narcissist is the opposite end of the spectrum. So if a narcissist is more on the right, let's say, then the opposite of that, the spouse or the partner or the boyfriends or the girlfriends or the whatever, are just as much on the opposite side of the spectrum. It's like a balance. In Asian medicine, everything is always in balance. And so the more sensitive and empathic you are, it tends to be the more likely, at least until you get your feet underneath you and you figure things out, that you're going to be with someone who is more on the Asperger's. If you're more emotional, you're going to be the other person's more on the Asperger's. If you're more on the Asperger's, you'll probably end up in relationships with people who are more emotional. It's just the way that it is. It's the natural universal balance. And children in the middle get really hurt by this drama that happens, and they don't have resources in order to sort it out, and they don't have a strong family system because mental health usually follows along the family system. So there's many women out there who've been damaged by narcissistic mothers. It's never been acknowledged. No one believes them. It's a family heritage, maybe that's been passed down generation to generation to generation to generation without any help for mental health, without any assistance to understand what's going on. And so the family will also then tend to minimize. If a child reaches out, if a child says, hey, you know what, this is just wrong. This isn't supposed to be the way life is. Many times family members will dismiss it. They don't want to get involved. It's like the whole victimization. The victim tends to get re-victimized over and over and over and over and over, mainly because it's too much effort for the adults, and they'd rather be like, oh no, this really wasn't that big of a deal, because it's too much work. It's too stressful to actually to believe that there might be something that's wrong and needs intervention. This is when you are in disordered situations. This is when you are in dysfunctional families where the secrets and the wounds and the whole system is really harmful and really damaging. In a healthy family system, there's support, there's family members, there's, oh, this is happening to you. Let's look into it. How did this happen? So when someone gets victimized, let's say externally, they get traumatized by something, a car accident, or a, a, a stranger who is inappropriate, or something happening at school, or bullying. A family member will say, you know what, I'm noticing there's something wrong. What's going on? How can we deal with this in the healthiest way possible? How can I help you build your self-esteem? How can I help you build your self-confidence? I like to tell people the main difference between healthy families and unhealthy families is many times there's a lot of similarities. People lose their tempers. They say things they don't want to say. They behave in ways which are melodramatic based on their own issues, because people are human. But healthy families, they work through it. They catch themselves. They discuss, they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. And they come back and they might apologize, and they might try to find ways to make it right or open up the lines of communication. but there's respect and love and care and compassion throughout the whole system. When you come from a narcissistic family system, um, that's not there. And so, in reality, you really need those experiences. You really need the guidance and the support and the understanding and the sympathy and the compassion and the healthy skills and self-respect. You still really need those experiences. But if you look out at today's world, we're not in a we're not in an environment where that's the norm, where that's what's on the media, where that's what's encouraged. So someone that's been damaged, let's say you, if you had a narcissistic mother, doesn't really get the help and support that you need, because by now it's too late. You're no longer a child, now you're an adult, and as an adult you need to handle it on your own. And so, without that role modeling, without those experiences, we tend to keep looping around. Women who've had narcissistic mothers tend to keep looping around the same sort of beliefs. And until they actually get that mother love, that feminine energy, that self love, that self care, um, we tend to stay in that loop because that's the piece of our soul that's missing. That's the piece of your heart that still needs some healing happening. Because narcissism has been around since the beginning of time, because it's not based on something that you did, that it's your fault. Uh, Even though the narcissist will try to make you believe that, they'll tell you that this is your fault. You did this to me. If you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have been like this. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, why do you have a problem with this? Why didn't you just get over this? This is no big deal. I don't understand why you're emotional about this. You'll get either way. But the experience of the child will be minimized, will be diminished, will be put down and ridiculed and damaged and ripped upon. This is what tends to happen then to the children in these situations. And it takes a real act of courage to decide that you don't want to live that way anymore, to decide that you don't want to live with that level of drama. And you don't know what's out there, but what's out there has got to be better than what you've dealt with. And you know what? It is. We tend to be attracted to or interested in or curious about the topics about ourselves that are unresolved. So if you had a narcissistic mother, you'll tend to then end up having more narcissistic women in your life. And narcissistic men, you'll tend to attract more narcissists, usually because if you haven't had a chance to process through and understand and put into perspective and realize that this is that in many levels you were a victim and what you can do about it. If you don't realize that, then you keep seeking and searching for those answers. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen to me? Why are they like this? Why are they doing this to me? Um, you'll keep looping around that, looking for the answers and getting into similar relationships. It's only when we get what we need and we turn the mirror around and we say, hey, what's going on? Who are you? What's going on? What do you need? How can I help you? When you start to get that love and support from yourself first, that's when things start to change. Okay? So if you have a narcissistic mother, and if you're watching this, you probably have, there's a lot going on. It's not an easy, simple snap of the fingers. And even though maybe you've been ignoring it or coping with it for a long time, it absolutely affects the rest of your life. It gets in the way of you being the person you're supposed to be because it's an old, old wound that might have happened even before birth while you were still in the womb. If there was emotional abuse or physical abuse of some sort, that affects you. That absolutely affects you. And if there's physical trauma that goes down through your heritage, the lineage, then even the eggs, when your mother was a child, it would affect the eggs that she was carrying because every woman's born with all the eggs she's going to have for the rest of her life. And that includes you. So you've got a lot going on. And when you start to look for and find and validate your own experiences and love yourself and respect yourself and find other people who can respect you as well, that's when the healing happens. That's when it really happens. Not continuing to juggle all the balls, not trying to keep repeating the same patterns over and over and wondering why, these people keep behaving this way. But when you change by getting what you need, your life changes. Now, if you're ready for your life to change, then reach out. I have a bunch of different resources. Here's some of them. A wonderful, really affordable women's group that we meet every week. And we we're in contact, and we've got our Facebook page, and we're friends, and we communicate with each other. And it's a wonderful way to finally get the loving feminine energy that you needed from women who get it, because they all come from narcissistic situations. So they're compassionate and empathic and understanding, and they get it. I also have my full library that's searchable. I have a whole link. You can just type in, let's say, bipolar, or you can type in narcissism, which will get you everything. You can type in meditation. You can type in mother. You can type in father. You can type in anything, and it will pull up in my hundreds and hundreds of videos exactly the part that you're looking for, the video clip and the transcript of it. So let me know. I've got a link for that we can send you to. I do one-on-one calls where we're like, hey, what's going on with you? Let's look at a plan. Let's look at the steps that you can take to build your relationship skills, to build your communication skills, to, get a better understanding of how you ended up here in the first place. We can come up with a whole plan on where to go and how to get there. That's no problem either. Or if you're local, I do body work as well. It's an amazing experience of coaching where we're able to really, open up and share, and you're able to get that feminine energy and that love and that care. And then we do body work where you get it on a physical level. Because the most important part is not just that you figured it out in your head, but that your body is on board too. You have to get your body in alignment as well. And that's where really good body work comes into play, whether it's energy work. I do energy work in shiatsu, which is Asian medicine, and it gives your body the experiences it needs of love in order to let go of those patterns that keep you feeling sick, that give you stomach disorders and migraines and dizziness and back problems and joint problems and immune system disorders and fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis. And it's able to get rid of the blocks, the emotional and the energetic and the mental beliefs and blocks that keep your body from healing itself. Because at the end of the day, your body is a miracle. Oh my God, is it a miracle? It has the ability to heal itself and to do millions more things than we're even aware of yet. So I'm able to work with your body and help your body heal itself. And that's the miracle. So that a lot of physical issues, heart problems, and as I said, and dizziness and stomach disorders and immune system disorders and inflammation and arthritis, and they're able to reverse because your body is finally able to heal itself because it's not holding on to those old beliefs. And as you get older, you'll find, one, that you're sick and tired of being this way. Two, that now you're the caregiver for your narcissist mother. Oh my God, how did that happen? And three, everything's accumulated. The stress of a lifetime is accumulated and made health problems worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So lots of options here. Send out a red flag, send me a message. We'll get back to you. It can take me a little bit of time because it's me. So, I try to get to things within a day or two and get back to people. And once we get you rolling, once we get you on the schedule, then we just we keep moving along. So you aren't alone. If you had a narcissist mother, don't keep it a secret, because there are millions of women who've had that experience and has been and will be for the rest of time. This is a life lesson. This is a healing. This is an experience that will allow you to become a higher version of yourself. And when you process through it and understand it, you'll actually be a more compassionate person, a better partner, and you will attract and you'll look for and you'll be curious about experiences which move you forward, which lift you up, instead of the experiences that are heavy and make you sicker. Okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.